You're listening to a show on the Planet Film podcast feed. Hi, my name is Sean.
And I'm TJ Cornwell.
And this is the Planet Film podcast. All right, so our first topic today is going to be to point out the elephant in the room. TJ, you finally got a haircut. How did that go?
Good. I went to Great Clips. Still looking for like a normal barber. I waited outside I checked in at because you do online check-in. I checked in probably at 10:30 per se. Mm-hmm. I think on the app, and then it said they were going to text me when there was a small amount of time to go, so I could go in. So I probably left an hour later, and I hadn't got the text yet, so I was just driving, and they sent me the text. So I got there, and I waited outside with this one guy, and he started talking to me, which, if you know me, I hate small talk. I really can't do it. But I'm not going to be like, can you not talk to me? So he was first he was like, oh, so you play games or anything? And I was like, yeah, I play PlayStation and PC. And he was like, you don't play Xbox? And I was like, I do sometimes, but I've kind of switched over. And he was like, Xbox is the better console. He's like, everybody knows that. And I was like, yeah, I just haven't played it. And he was like, he goes, he's like, you're gonna get the PlayStation 5? I was like, yeah, probably. And he was like, you gotta get the Xbox. It's got 9 teraflops or what. I don't even think he knew what that meant. But he was all about the Xbox. And then he was talking to me about he asked me if I was a grill. I was a big grill guy. And I was like, oh, I grill hamburgers and hot dogs, the regular stuff. And he was like, do you buy frozen patties or do you make your own get them from the deli and then you shape them and everything? And he was like, and I was like, oh, I buy them just frozen. He was like, no, don't do that anymore. He goes, you gotta buy them from a butcher, and then you gotta pack the patties yourself.
This was an experience.
I was granted, we were told it was going to be 8 minutes. I was outside for an hour. So literally I had nowhere, I could have gone to my car. But I was like, I'm not gonna just be like, okay, well, I'm going to my car now. Yeah. And he was all about he was like, it'll taste so much better. He goes, they take all this stuff in with the prepackaged patties, and they put all this stuff in them, all these chemicals. And he goes, you ever left a patty out for 10 minutes without just sitting there? I was like, no. He goes, you come back, they're gray. He's like, it's only been sitting there for 10 minutes. And then he talked to me about work and stuff. And I was like, well, I don't, I'm not really working right now. So I'm looking for a job. And then he was talking about coronavirus and, yeah. And then I saw another friend. Well, not another friend. I saw my one friend from high school. So I was talking to him too. He was also in line. Nice. But yeah, overall, I probably stood there for about an hour.
That sounds awful. I have that exact same setup. My appointment is on the 20th, so can't wait to meet a nice old man who's going to tell me, that I'm doing everything wrong in life. So I have that to look.
Oh, sorry. The other thing I forgot. Other thing, I had my mask on and everything, and he's like, were you were at the Black Lives Matter protest? Or I was like, no, I was not. And he was like, oh, well, he thought I looked like a guy from there, I guess. I was like, wow. I was not there, but.
I wonder if he means he was there or he watched it on the news.
No, he must. I think he was there. He must.
Were you on? Yeah, was that you on CNN in the background?
Yeah.
Looked just like you.
Mm-hmm.
That is very. I did not know any of that. When I asked you, I was not expecting a.
Oh yeah, that was the whole thing.
Old man. That is. Oh my God, that's amazing. Then the other thing we just want to talk about up top is we did start our Star Wars only show, Planet Council, this past week. The first episode is up on the podcast feed as well as the YouTube channel. So that is up. Go ahead and take a listen to that. If you like Star Wars or if you don't. We do just talk generally our thoughts on Star Wars and kind of our relationship with Star Wars. and then we do a deep dive into the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian season 1. So I go ahead and give that a listen. And then going ahead and starting off in the news, this is going to be a very news heavy show today. There was a lot of stuff that was going on in the last week, both just in the regular world and also entertainment news and stuff. And unfortunately, something with the regular world that kind of bled over was that this week we did lose Dennis O'Neil at the age of 81, who was a longtime comic book writer, and he was largely considered one of the greatest Batman writers ever made, or ever working. That he kind of revitalized the character once it kind of went off, kind of brought it back to center, gave a lot of the storylines and character traits and, influence on the design and stuff that would later go on to influence things like the animated series. He also did a lot of work with Marvel as well over the years. And a big thing that he did was he was the one who hired Frank Miller. Dennis O'Neil was hired by Stan Lee, and then Dennis O'Neil hired Frank Miller. So it's like a cool kind of trio of, big, like 3 big titans in the industry, having a lot of back and forth there. It's just very sad to see. He was only 81, which by, today's standards is not even that old anymore. It's definitely had probably some more time left. But, he did live a full career life, got a lot of success and a lot of fame, and has millions and millions of loyal fans that love his work. I know you're not a big comic guy, but, how do you feel about, just losing somebody in the comic book industry like that had such a big impact on millions of people throughout the decades?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sucks. I mean, when we lost Stan Lee, it was like, the whole world just like mourned for him. And I'm sure it's the same way with Dennis O'Neil.
Yeah.
He wrote Batman?
Yeah, he wrote Batman for many, many years, and a ton of other characters for both DC and Marvel as well.
Oh, okay. So it was both.
Yeah.
So I was like confused for a second.
Yeah, he worked for both. Yeah, over the course of his career, he worked for both, which back then was not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even that uncommon now. But like you said, like losing Stan Lee, it's just sad to see. In the last 10, 15 years, we've lost tons of people that were so influential right at the beginning of comic books, like Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, now Dennis O'Neil. It's just sad to see. It is part of life, unfortunately, that, as these great titans of the industry that, brought us all the bedrock of, the comics that we love today that now have evolved into the movies and shows that we love today, are sadly getting up there in age and passing away. But, it definitely, our thoughts are with his family and his fans, across the entire world. And we hope, Dennis O'Neil can rest in peace knowing that, his legacy will definitely go on well past him, which is always, a great thing to see. Another thing that kind of has to do with legacy that we want to talk about here is, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I should say fortunately, the Black Lives Matter protests, or now the All Black Lives Matter protests, are still going on across the world. And with that, there have unfortunately been, this whole thing started off as outrage for police brutality in the murder of George Floyd. And unfortunately, it has not stopped. In the 3 weeks, there have been even more cases of police brutality and police murders and murders in general caught on film and on tape. And so now kind of we're seeing the entertainment industry step in to discuss that and to basically act on that information. So this past week at the Paramount Network, they did cancel Cops after the murder of George Floyd. They did pull it from the airways. They stopped airing the episodes upon basically further review to see if they would bring it back or not. And they decided after the overwhelming amount of cases and everything that's been happening, the show after 33 seasons has been canceled. And, you know, this is something that now we have a lot of big questions that people have about the entertainment industry going forward and their depiction of police officers. So now if we're having unscripted cop shows be canceled, the next obvious thing is people are questioning, you know, are we going to start seeing scripted police dramas canceled, or even police comedies? A big point on this is a lot of eyes are on to see what they will do with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That being, you know, one of the most popular shows on television right now. A comedy, obviously. You know, they've done like not dramatic episodes, but like dealt with heavy subject matter before, you know, in like a playful way, just because of the nature of the show. But all eyes are on them, and, you know, the Dick Wolf shows, you know, the Chicago shows and Law and Order, like all
like Chicago PD and stuff like that.
All the shows that Dick Wolf is on, or not is on, but is like runs and writes and stuff. And the other thing with that is, you know, it's just really hard to tell, you know, where the line is and where Hollywood should step in to address these things. You know, on one hand, you have the people, you know, say that, you know, they don't look to TV for realism. They look to it for escapism and like a sense of hope or like optimism or even like catharsis. You know, they don't look at it for realism. So some people say, you know, well, leave the shows up, you know, as they are. It's what police should strive to be. But another thing that people say is, you know, it's giving a false depiction of what being a police officer is. And, you know, I think that's going to be something that's very interesting to see over the next, you know, few weeks and months and even years to see, you know, how that all shakes up. But what would you say that your thoughts are on that?
I'm not surprised. It's definitely a good move. I'm waiting for like the other like live PD and stuff like that. For those shows.
Live PD was canceled.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. If there are like other ones.
In terms of, do you mean like
just like
or unscripted?
Unscripted.
Those are the only two main ones that I can think of. You know, I'm sure there's like web shows and stuff that do that. But in terms of the big ones, it's those two. And then like other scripted ones, you know, there's like the show SWAT, which
with Shamar Moore.
Yeah.
Criminal Minds. Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see what goes on with that. But yeah, so definitely something that we are going to be keeping an eye on, you know, as long as these the protests, you know, keep up and, you know, the entertainment industry responds to them. We will definitely be covering it on here. Another thing, the next thing we want to talk about is there are going to be some big changes coming for the Oscars, which actually the news they just tweeted it out. Let's see here. Just bring it up on my phone because it is very, very new. Yeah, they just tweeted it out about an hour ago when we are right now.
Okay.
So basically, they put out some key dates. Now, have you had a chance to look at any of this?
No, I'm going to go look at it right now.
Okay, yeah, it's right on their official Twitter. So big dates. The big one here is that the ceremony itself will be moved to Sunday, April 25th, 2021. So being pushed months at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Just a quick question. Like looking at like the dates, like why? Okay. So you have the eligibility on the first. That's the last day of eligibility is January 1st, 2020.
No, that's the first day of eligibility. So it's
February
1st to February 28th, 2021.
Okay. Never mind that. Know what I was going to say.
Yeah, so the awards eligibility here, forgive me, I'm just reading it right off my phone.
You're good.
The awards eligibility here is from January 1st, 2021 or 2020, sorry,
Yeah.
to February 28th, 2021. So that's basically a 14-month eligibility period.
Yeah.
Which is something that obviously doesn't normally happen. And now basically with that, everything is just kind of being pushed. So now we're going to have the short list is going to be announced on February 9th, which is, kind of when the ceremony is normally held.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to have the nominations be announced on March 15th. And then, like I said, the actual Oscars are going to be on April 25th. And then, coincidence.
Oh, yeah, they're opening a
whatever
museum.
you want to call it, but the Oscar Museum is opening on April 30th. Now, the interesting thing about this is, this past year especially, there has been a lot of talk and discussion about the Oscar release window, about how studios save movies till right at the end, and it makes it very difficult for the Academy members to be able to see every movie that's eligible.
Yeah.
It was a big point of contention this past year. As you saw with, the ups and downs of 1917, about how early on it was a big front runner, then it kind of died off, and then it kind of surged right back up again once other Academy members were able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Still didn't end up being able to beat out, Parasite.
Big dubs.
Bong Hive, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a big problem for some people, is that the actual release window of them is, they feel it's too truncated.
Yeah.
So what this now, the question is, and I saw, I want to source, I saw Dan Murrell tweeted when the new dates went out. He said it's going to be very interesting to see if the movies that normally come out in that really, really short period of time,
mm-hmm.
From like December 1st to like January 10th, are the movies now going to come out more spread out to give them more time to breathe from like December 1st to February 28th?
Yeah.
Or does this mean now that we're still going to get that mad rush of movies? It's just now going to be like from like January 20th to February 28th. You know what I mean? So it's like, is this going to give it more breathing room, or is this just going to move the mad rush to get all the Oscar movies out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's going to, give it the breathing room it needs, or do you think it's just going to be kind of the same problem, just move 2 months up?
It depends. With all this like COVID stuff going on, this could still be going on like at this time, like next year. I mean, so if you have you have theaters open,
I mean, this Oscar
soon.
ceremony, April 30th, 2021, could very easily be a digital ceremony.
Yeah.
Even at that point,
you have theaters open per se, but they're only operating like 50% capacity each theater or each auditorium. So maybe you, as a studio, with the movies that you want to go up for Oscars, you're like holding back to the very last second. Yeah. So I mean, it could still happen. I feel like it just kind of depends on like just theaters and like what their capacity is, I guess. I mean, granted, they're letting for this year only, you can be like a VOD, like straight to VOD, like nomination, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So like, I mean, if they just want to go that route, they could just do that. But I'm sure they'd rather, have their movie seen in front of a larger audience in a screen on a bigger screen than people watching it at home on their TVs.
Yeah.
But I think I think it'll still happen just because that's how they seem to operate like every year.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have the chance to release them earlier, I say they do that.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I definitely would hope, that they take the time to give it the breathing room it needs, so that eventually when it gets back on schedule, they might realize that, if you give them a bigger release window, more of the public's going to be able to see it. and
Yeah.
more of the Academy is going to be able to see it. But it's the Oscars, and it's hard to change them sometimes. Um, they've been making strides, these last couple of years, especially this year. They have Ava DuVernay is now a member of the Academy of Directors, which is, nice.
Yeah.
You're in there, having that input. But, it's still a lot of change needs to come to that institution for, inclusivity and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. And it was, real quick, sorry. So they extended the when is the regular like eligibility like? When does that usually end? Like the last day of the year?
Yeah. So basically, the movie previously it was like the movie has to be has to play in a certain amount of. I think it's 3 screens.
Okay.
In New York and 3 screens in LA.
Okay.
Before the first of the year.
Okay.
That was the old eligibility.
So like with this extension, then you might like people like last month or 2 months ago are like, oh, Sonic's winning Best Picture. I mean, you're definitely going to have a wider variety to choose from. I feel like if they're extending it, this long.
Yeah, that's definitely the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Is that they're trying to do that to get some of these movies that were pushed, to give them the opportunity to catch up and get out, so that everybody can actually see it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting. I still say Sonic for Best Picture, but it'll be interesting to see what else comes out. All right. So next, and this week we do have a good amount of video game news. A lot of gaming news. Big week for gaming news in the entertainment industry. So obviously the big thing here, we had the PlayStation Live event held on, I believe it was June 10th. I think
yes. I think it was, yeah.
Track of the days, but I believe it was June 10th. All right. So here, or I think it was actually June 11th. Either way,
okay.
Held this week. And so, first off, I think I want to go first to the console itself.
Okay.
So people have, almost instantly, there were dozens of memes online about the look. I will say right off the bat that I am not a big fan of the look. I know it's in black, and I know that there will be a variant of it, of a game that we will talk about in a moment here. I'll probably get that one. If I can get that and the game like as a combo deal, I'll probably get that one. But the overall look of the console itself, the Wi-Fi router, as it's been dubbed,
or like I've seen like air conditioner, like the tall air AC units.
Like a vertical fan.
Yeah.
What do you think about the actual look of the console and the overall live stream in general? Do you think it was worth your time? Do you think it was good, bad? How do you think?
Yeah. I just want to do like a quick like disclaimer about like the news section. Even though it says like Planet Film, like it's not specifically always film. It'll be like kind of anything in the entertainment genre. So it could be like games here, TV, movies. If there's like a big music thing, I don't know. Just like a little disclaimer.
Basically anything entertainment, that's just it's just the name of it. But we cover on this podcast, comic books, TV, film news, game. Like you said, if something really massive happens, like in the music industry, that we can't talk about, or if sadly, if like a huge musician, passes away, we're going to talk about that kind of thing. It's really, especially for the news segment, we are mainly a film podcast, but especially in the news segment, we're going to run the whole gamut of what the entertainment industry has to offer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the console. I think it looks better than the Xbox. I think the Xbox looks like a freezer or a fridge. Personally, well, I will definitely most likely be getting it, especially because of like Spider-Man and just like the other games.
And you told that guy at your haircut that you were gonna get it, so now
I know. Now I have to.
Spoiler alert: he works for Sony.
Yeah, exactly. I've just like over the past few years, I've leaned off of Xbox. I used to play it a lot. That's before like I got like a PC, and then play. In my opinion, like PS or PlayStation just has better exclusives in general. But definitely like looking at the Spider-Man trailer like right at the beginning, that definitely made me want to get it because I'm assuming that's going to be a PS5 like exclusive. Like I don't think that's going to go like to PS4 or anything.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about it. So that's our next point. Is this thing kicked off with you see two hands kind of holding something up or holding something back, and then slowly you see the suit or whatever they're wearing, kind of flake off and get zapped off. And then the camera pulls back and you see the web netting on the black suit with the red webbing. And yet the crowd goes wild. I know. I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Because, we've been thinking about, when are we going to get a sequel to the Spider-Man game forever? And to just come out the gate with saying not only is it going to be another Spider-Man game, but it's going to be one focused on Miles Morales.
Yeah.
So you have that great teaser and then the pullback with the title Spider-Man Miles Morales. I lost my damn mind when that happened. What did you think about that?
No, I was definitely really excited, and I was wondering like when was Insomniac, who develops the game, when were they gonna say something about the next like iteration? Because the PS4 one was released like 2 years ago, which I didn't even know it was 2 years already.
Yeah, no.
At least 2018. So it's like, okay, I feel like everybody's gone through where they've played it, and I don't know how long it took for them to do Spider-Man for PS4, like when they announced it to when it came out.
I think it was like 4 years.
Okay, so I was kind of like wondering like, okay, like when are we gonna see like some information, something? Because like I feel like there hadn't been any leaks or anything like
it was tight, especially for this. For what the reveal was, it was airtight. I mean, I think I saw like maybe 6 months ago they were like, "Oh, Spider-Man 2 is being worked on." Like that was
like okay, yeah,
but like that was even wrong because technically, they've said this is not Spider-Man 2. It's
I was gonna say, do we have differing opinions on this? Do we both think it's like it's a game, but it's not like an extensive it's not a full Spider-Man game?
No, they said it is a full Spider-Man game. I mean. We probably have differing opinions because the information. That's another thing we should talk about this game is that kind of the information.
It's kind of
not because, as I said, with the reveal of Spider-Man Miles Morales, that was it. It just said Spider-Man Miles Morales,
and it's a December,
and then they never talked about it again in the entire thing. But what I believe the information that came out is that the whole confusion is. One of the developers called it a extension of the first game.
Yeah, it was like the European president of like marketing or something like that.
Yeah, which they said is not correct. So what I interpret the new what I interpret the new what I interpret the new information to be is that sorry, that just totally threw me off. What I interpret the new information to be is that this is its own game, its own full game. It's a full game. It's a Miles Morales centric game, and I think where the whole confusion came in is that what they were saying is Peter is going to get a Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're saying, is that this is not Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
This is its own thing.
Yeah.
That this is a full game. It's just not Spider-Man 2. Which I think is even better news, because that means we're going to get the continuation of Peter's story, and then we could get a Miles Morales 2. You know what I mean? We could have two. It's kind of like with the movies, where there's just like Spider-Man all everywhere, multiple versions. Like I feel like the public is really finally in on what the comic book fans have known for years, which is that just like Spider-Man is one of those characters where there are dozens, if not hundreds, of versions, and they cross over. They they team up, they do like, you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, Spider-Verse just scratched the surface with what they could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think PlayStation and Sony Sony definitely kind of realizes that they're at a place where the world can accept multiple versions of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like, because this Spider-Man game, the story in that was like an amazing story. Just gameplay aside, I mean, the game was amazing, but the actual Spider-Man story within it was fantastic. Especially with how they worked Miles into it. But yeah, so I mean that I don't know what your opinion of what they said is, but that's just how I took it. Was that this is basically going to be the first game in the Miles Morales Spider-Man games.
Yeah,
and that Peter will get a Spider-Man 2. It's just this is a standalone thing, but it is a full game.
The only thing I think we disagree on is they say it's a full game. I don't know if it's going to be as extensive as like I don't want them to just reskin the first one and then put this out.
I don't think they will because in the trailer you see he's fighting totally different villains. It's winter in New York. I think it will because you got to think if it took them 4 years to make the first game and that's from the ground up.
Yeah,
they have the infrastructure of the city and the mechanics all down. You know what I mean? We know that there's going to be brand new mechanics because we see Miles turn invisible in the trailer. So I don't think it will be a reskin version. I think if anything, they've just been working the hell out of this for 2 years. You know what I mean? Just like on end, just working and working and working. And I think because I don't think that they would be able to get away with just releasing a version for $59.99. You know what I mean? I think it's just that a lot of that groundwork was already completed. So really all they had to do was focus on story, some of the new mechanics for Miles, and like suits and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and that stuff, I mean, that's really, that's one of the best things about the first game was the mechanics and stuff like that. I could be wrong. You could be wrong. We could both be wrong. But I just personally, I think it's going to be a full game, but it's never been past a video game studio before to put out a less than superb product. So we will definitely see when that happens. And yeah, I believe, let's see, when was the release date for that coming?
I think it's a launch title.
Yeah, but we don't even know when the system's launching.
Oh yeah, they just said holiday, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay. That was like December 15th or something like that.
Yes, yeah. It says here, well, no official date is announced. The PlayStation 5 launches in the 2020 holiday season, and the Spider-Man game will be a launch title. Yes. So yeah, holiday basically. So another launch title, which I am super excited for because this is one of my favorite gaming franchises ever. I played them all as a kid on the PS2, played them over and over and over again. I literally bought multiple versions of Going Commando because I burned out that disc because it stopped working. Which is, we are finally getting, I mean, I say finally, but the last one was 2016. We are finally getting a new original story Ratchet and Clank game on the PS5. It's going to be a launch title also from Insomniac because that's, Ratchet and Clank's their like baby over there. That was what made the bones of that studio was the Ratchet and Clank franchise. And it's got a really, really cool concept, which is it now has like rifts, like dimensional rifts. So now you could be fighting and, in the trailer for it, it says land sharks from above. Like Clank calls out land sharks from above. And that's like a cool callback because land sharks are always something that like they sprout out of the ground at you. Like they're like really annoying villains from a couple of previous games, and it's a really cool way to show that like this is changing things up by saying land sharks from above. And it's also something that you could be fighting someone and then all of a sudden a rift opens and now you're fighting somebody totally else or you're out of the fight. I just think it's a really cool concept, and it adds, a new element to a game. Because the Ratchet and Clank games, they've always been kind of pushing the envelope on what adventure games can be, and obviously the fan community is there for it, and they are super excited for this as well as I am. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Are you going to be getting the Ratchet and Clank game, or what do you think?
I that probably won't be getting it. I never played any of the other ones. I really wish I could share in your excitement. If Sly Cooper had been announced for PS5, I would be bouncing off the walls right now. I really wish I could say something, but of course it wasn't. But no, I probably won't end up getting it. I just don't know anything about like the games in general. I've always heard about them. I got a PS2 pretty late too when I was younger, so it never really like struck my interest or anything. But I'm excited for you. I wish I could say the same about Sly Cooper.
Yeah. All right. So, well, that was for the PlayStation event. Unfortunately, in my opinion, at least, as the overall event went, I would say it never really topped that. The first two announcements were Spider-Man and then Ratchet and Clank, and then it was just a lot of either, and that's just personal preference. Like it was just sequels to games that I never played, or original titles that looked cool. There was the one that looked cool. God, I wish I could remember the name of it. It was the one that was like the assassins caught in a time loop. Deathloop, maybe. That one looked really, really cool.
I missed like half of it, I think. So I had to leave for like half an hour or something.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. That was like the really only one else that stuck out to me. But yeah, I mean, it was a little disappointing that you had the big reveal at the end of the trailer, and then it was just like no date and no price.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. So the next thing here we want to take a look at is just a quick story. AT&T, who is now the parent company of Warner Media, is for some reason looking to sell the Warner Brothers gaming unit for upwards of $4 billion. So it's really at this point unclear as to why they're looking to sell that part of the company, because it is something that has been very profitable for them, especially the Arkham titles, because this includes the name just escaped me. Rocksteady, the makers of the Arkham series, which is one of the most profitable gaming series of all time. So it's unclear if they just have no plans to do that, to continue that, or to make anything like that. But what are your takes on this? Just quickly, just some of the buyers that are looking at it is Take-Two Interactive, EA, Activision, and Blizzard have all expressed interest in buying.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? Obviously another thing with the repercussion is, with some of these studios, if it's sold to them, you could be looking at now Arkham games being exclusives on certain platforms, whereas before they were widely available. So what are your thoughts on that? And where would you like to see this gaming entity end up?
I don't think they should go. I don't not like EA, but they just, they have over the past few years they've just made some terrible choices when launching games. For example, Battlefront 2, when it launched and it was, pay to win, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Which, it's had like a bit of a revitalization in the past few years, but it definitely like left a sour taste in my mouth when it released. I don't know really anything about Take-Two or Activision Blizzard. I'm just wondering what's happening. I'm assuming they're working on that Harry Potter like RPG, right? Isn't that what it is, or is it like an MMO?
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that going back to the Sony event, I mean, people were expecting that to be announced.
Yeah, I was waiting for
Um,
that.
because it was originally, they were expecting it to be announced at E3, then E3 obviously got canceled. So they thought the next logical thing would be at either an Xbox or a PlayStation event.
Yeah.
It didn't get announced at either. So now that they're looking to sell, the question comes, are they looking to put that game out and then sell? Or are they looking to sell, then just leave it up to whoever that is to kind of pick up the pieces of wherever that game is in development? Because I was very much looking forward to that game. Like a Harry Potter. I think they said, I think it was like they said it was going to be either an RPG or an MMO. Like it was definitely going to be a huge multiplayer component, which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd really be looking to see that. I would say out of just these choices here, I would say I would hope that they would go to EA, only because if we're explicitly talking about, and obviously it's much more than that, but if we're exclusively looking at that, I think that its best chance of success and longevity comes with EA. That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Because Blizzard, they have Overwatch and some of their older.
Yeah, I'm
titles.
just looking at them now. I didn't know Activision Blizzard was like the parent of all of them, and then Blizzard, they have Blizzard and Activision as their subsidiary.
Yeah. They have like their older games, and then obviously Overwatch is huge.
Yeah, and then they do Call of Duty. Like that's like Activision's like biggest product, I feel like.
Yeah, and I just feel like its best home would be with EA.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's got the biggest, especially with EA, it's got the biggest chance of being not an exclusive, I would say, if it goes with EA, because EA, you can get pretty much all their games on any platform.
Yeah.
Which is good, as long as sadly on PC you have to deal with the damn Origin launcher. I would say I would just hope it would go with EA on that. And then the next thing here, which is kind of going off of what we talked about at the end of last week's episode, is that another Warner topic here. There's a lot of gaming news and a lot of Warner Media news, which is that Warner Media is saying goodbye to HBO Go with the advent of HBO Max.
Yeah.
So before I really just... I'm so uninterested in all of this. I love HBO, but this is like just one of the biggest like bungled messes we've seen in a while. And there have been some big bungled messes in the last 5 years. So basically, before HBO Max launched, there was 2 HBO apps, HBO Go and HBO Now. Now, after this, there will still be 2 HBO apps. One will be HBO Max and one will be HBO. So they really just kind of reskinned both apps, gave them like a facelift and a new name, and that's it. I don't understand what the big deal is about any of this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to grasp why this is like, why they think that this is like the dawning of a new era in streaming. I'm not talking about like the critics or like fans or anything. I'm just saying like Warner in general. It's to me, it just doesn't strike me as that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like they literally just touched up their 2 existing apps, and that's it.
I mean, with this, you're just confusing more people, in my opinion.
Exactly.
I don't know why. So the renaming HBO Now will now just be named HBO. So now they're just gonna have HBO and HBO Max.
Yeah, instead of HBO Go and HBO Now. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't understand why you don't just like, I guess because there's more money to be made. Like, why don't you just have a singular HBO Max? Like, get rid of just have one app. Because you're still going to have the HBO Now app, but it's just going to be renamed HBO.
Well, but that's the thing. The question becomes, who is this HBO app for? Because if you subscribe to HBO through your cable provider,
yeah,
you get
HBO Max, which is what I do. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So who is HBO for? Who is that for? I don't understand. Is it just going to be like a $12.99 alternative? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand
Yeah,
that.
like I don't understand why you get rid of HBO Now, or sorry, just make HBO Now HBO, but instead I would just do it where you have the cable provider who gives you the channels. Okay, so you just have regular HBO on your TV, and HBO Max is another paid subscription.
Yeah.
So just you separate. HBO is only available on your television, and then maybe I don't know, you up HBO Max a little bit with the price, but you make everything available on HBO, like on TV, plus the bigger catalog.
Yeah, they should have done like get rid of everything. Get rid of
Yeah.
everything. Well, first of all, like I said last week,
Yeah.
they should have, if they were really in this for the long haul with this, which it sounds like they're trying to be, but it's not going to be that great. They needed to do what Disney Plus did, which is build a streaming service from the ground up, suit it to how people are going to watch it, how people are going to use it, what people want to watch, stuff like that. Instead, they literally just, like I said last week, dyed HBO Now purple and gave it a new name. They should have got rid of everything, made one HBO Max app, and it should have been that like HBO Max would be like $15.99 a month. I think that's what it is right now. Is like $15.99 a month. But have it be that like if you already pay your cable provider for HBO, log in with Fios, log in with Spectrum, and then say, hey, you have access to the HBO catalog. If you want HBO Max, pay an extra $2.99 a month.
Yeah.
That's what it should have been.
Yeah.
It should have been you can get HBO Max for the set price. If you already have HBO on your TV, log in with that, and then there's a small upcharge to get the full catalog. That's all they should have done. And that's not that hard of a model. That's exactly what Netflix does. Netflix has pricing from, I believe the lowest now is $8.99 or $9.99,
Yeah, something like that,
up to, what I have or what I think most people have is like the $14.99 one. The one where it's like you get, a bunch of screens, 4K. Like it's not that hard of a model to have different tiers. A lot of streaming services have. Look at Hulu. Hulu with ads, Hulu without ads, Hulu with live TV.
Yeah.
Like Hulu, you can plug and play whatever you want. It's not that hard of a concept. And I think really I think exactly what you said. They're really just confusing people.
Mm-hmm.
It really just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it seems like a lot of effort for nothing.
Yeah.
And then, just because I'm like sick of talking about HBO Max. We were gonna talk about this later on, but let's talk about it now. Just they also removed Gone with the Wind from HBO Max amid everything going on here. I think that's a wise move. What do you think?
Same. No, yeah. I've never seen the movie, but I hearing it's during like Civil War and all that other time. Probably just a better, you don't want to get, punished in the media.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where they say, they're taking it off now. They're going to put it back on. They're going to put it back on with like a disclaimer thing saying, like
Disney Plus does the same thing where it's like
exactly
these were different times. Blah,
yeah,
blah,
and that's one of the things that people applaud Disney Plus for is like, oh well, they didn't really have to do that. They could have just kind of washed away that history, but they didn't, which is nice. So yeah, I think that's a wise decision with what's going on right now. All right, and now we have the release date hustle or the release date shuffle. So we have a ton after like a month of silence with really no release date changes. They're back at it again. So I guess I'll just run through these, just get your thoughts quickly on them. So first of all, well, let's end with that one because that's probably going to be the biggest one. Okay. Wonder Woman 1984 pushed from August 14th to October 2nd. Now, another thing about this is that they released that information by Patty Jenkins tweeting out a video of different movie theater marquees with the date on it. Mm-hmm. But I believe it was the Warner Brothers page or maybe the DC page tweeted out the wrong video that said Thanksgiving on it. So people are like, how many of these videos did they Photoshop? You know what I mean? Like, does that mean that they just had choices? Like, how did that get out? Or is this like, okay, well, now we have a couple release dates staked out. If we can't make October 2nd, let's release the Thanksgiving video. You know what I mean? Like, so it's very interesting with that. But, you know, kind of expected. A sad one for me, but one that made kind of sense because the turnaround time for this was really tight anyways without COVID, which is Godzilla vs. Kong moves from Thanksgiving 2020 to Memorial Day weekend 2021 to May 21st, which to me, you know, great. You know, more time to work on the movie, more time to get the visual effects like amazing and the sound editing. You know, a lot of that movie comes down to post. But, you know, that's fine. I mean, that's not even that big of a delay. You know, you're only looking at pretty much, you know, like 6 months, 5 months on that one. It's worth the wait, you know, to get a better product for that, I would say. Then the next one is Matrix 4, which is not that surprising. That moves back quite a bit, almost a full year. That's moving from May 21st, 2021, the spot that Godzilla moved into, all the way back to April 1st, 2022. Now, again, this does make sense. You know, they I think were right in the middle of shooting Matrix 4 when everything shut down. Which I mean, that behind the scenes stuff looked incredible. All the real stunts they were doing in LA. Oh my God, that movie is going to be worth the wait. Hopefully. It all comes down to the story, but the stunts at least look really cool. But, you know, that one, again, makes a lot of sense. You know, they still have plenty of that movie left to film, let alone work on the post-production. And then a couple more here. We have the one and only Ivan, which is looks like maybe like a circus animated movie. It's got a stellar cast, though. It's got Sam Rockwell, Angelina Jolie, as well as a host of other people. That is moving from August 14th theatrical release to an August 21st Disney Plus release. So that's going to be moving on to Disney Plus. And then taking their release date, the August 14th one, is going to be The Personal History of David Copperfield, which is, you know, a old book, you know, a movie based on an old book. This one stars Dev Patel and Peter Capaldi, as well as a bunch of other really great people. Another one with a really big cast, you know, kind of old school Charles Dickens-esque, you know, old English movie.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good. I think that one was even originally slated maybe for like January of this year, maybe even late last year. That one's been pushed quite a bit, but, you know, it's good to see that getting a release date finally. And then the big one here, which is actually the smallest push, but the biggest impact, is Tenet pushes from July 17th to July 31st. So this does have pretty big ramifications for the theater-going experience and the theaters opening, and basically just the Hollywood machine in general.
Yeah.
So basically, with Tenet being pushed back 2 weeks, that could potentially see another 2-week delay in the opening of theaters. Now, unfortunately, we are seeing more COVID spikes in multiple states now since reopening. You know, thankfully, we are located in New York. Thankfully, for now, we have not seen a spike here because things have been handled, you know, pretty well. But, you know, it still could come. So, I mean, even all of these are still tentative right now because I saw just today, I saw that it said Florida was going to be closing up stuff again. They're going back to.
Well, that's what happens when you open the beaches, everything all at once.
Exactly. And, you know, places like, you know, North Carolina, South Carolina, Arizona, especially Arizona is having a real bad time right now. Not a lot of help coming from the state government there. They're not really enforcing a lot of restrictions, which is unfortunately seeing a massive spike in cases, which, you know, in the words of the internet, you hate to see it. But you know, on a more personal note, you know, I don't want to get too personal in here, but, you know, I have enjoyed my job in a movie theater for the past many years, and I would like to get back to work as safely as possible. And whenever that may be, I'm fine with that. But I do not want to see all of this be rushed because Christopher Nolan wants to be the savior of the film industry. On a more personal note, there, I would, if I could not contract an illness because of Christopher Nolan's ego, that would be fantastic. And I love Christopher Nolan. I think he's one of the best filmmakers that ever made. But I don't know if I love him that much.
Yeah.
To go back when it's not safe yet. And, with states closing up again, with Florida closing up, LA could close up again as well. But even with just Florida being closed, I mean, that's a big populace for movie going.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking like dozens of states are seeing huge upticks. Dozens. That's like almost half the country. I don't know if the movie industry is going to reopen with that many people off the board. You know what I mean?
And that was my point. Theaters. That was my point earlier about the Oscars. It's like, this is coming back. Like, people are like, well, we got to get ready. Like, what if there's a wave 2? It's like, we're not even on a wave 1.
Exactly.
So it's like I don't know what you like think is going to happen. But like, if you don't like take it slowly, if the states open, like, okay, we're going to open everything in here, and we're not going to open. We're going to open really slow here, or we're going to open everything on these 3 states. It's just not. You're gonna. It's just not going to happen. Like, real quick, sorry, going back to like this release date thing. Mm-hmm. I know it's not Disney, but if I would have seen New Mutants on here, I would have lost it.
Oh, I know. I know.
Well, it's August, right?
Right now it's set August 14th. Yeah, it's August 4th. Okay,
that's questionable.
That's opening the same. I think that's opening the same day as Personal History of David Copperfield.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
That's questionable. I think, just like a quick weird prediction. I think honestly, if August 14th they don't hit it, I think they're just gonna bite the bullet and just put it on streaming.
But that's the thing, is that's biting a really big bullet. That's biting Bill the Bullet, because that is like that because they don't have the streaming rights. So it's like,
oh right, you
their
always
only chance, their only chance to make money is theatrical. So it's or actually, I don't know what the logistics of it would be, but they could do a VOD release. They would get that money.
Oh, or that, yeah.
Because it's just streaming release goes to HBO, but they could do a limited VOD window.
Yeah.
I think they should just do that. I mean, this poor movie. I mean, I trust the director. Mm-hmm. I trust that he's like, no, Disney's
Josh Boone, right?
Disney's Josh or Jason. I think it's Josh. Yeah, one of the two. But Boone is I trust him in that he's saying, Disney's letting me take the reins back. He's like, they're just letting me do the movie that I actually want to make.
Yeah.
Which is great. Probably what we would not have gotten with the old regime. But that poor movie. I mean, I have faith in him that I think it might be good. I mean, all the trailers we've seen have been good. The visual effects look fantastic. It looks like an interesting, dynamic story. I just want to see this goddamn movie. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to see it. And I don't know when we will. So last couple stories here. We just wanted to go through a little cool one, lighthearted one.
Apologize. There's a lot today.
Yeah, there is a lot of news today. There is a thick amount of news that was going on, and there was even more that I had to cut when I was doing the notes that I wish we could talk about, but there's just so much this week. One little one that I did just want to talk about, just because in all the chaos and everything that's happening, this is just a cool story. So Lionel Richie, obviously famous. Here's music into the entertainment industry, so we will definitely talk about that. So Lionel Richie, famous musician, famous singer, famous songwriter, everything. His song "All Night Long," which is one of his biggest hits ever. He is working with Disney to create an original musical for Disney Plus, revolving around that song. So it's just, just a cool story there. Obviously him being a host on American Idol, he's already part of the Disney family there. He was featured heavily in that new show, Disney Insider. They did a whole episode on American Idol that kind of was like Katy Perry walking around the set and stuff. But, obviously the other judges were there too. So, him being part of the Disney family, I'm sure that had to do with it. But, it's just like a cool, nice, lighthearted story that, it's just going to be cool that, it's kind of cool also that like after all this time, the song was released decades ago, that, he feels that he still has enough creativity around that song, that there's even more to do there. So it'll definitely be cool to see, it'd be cool if, maybe they get another Disney family member like Lin-Manuel Miranda, maybe come in, Lionel Richie and Lin working on something together. That would be amazing. That would be so cool. So it's really interesting to see, that coming along. And then last up here, 2 Star Wars topics, which I'm sure we will elaborate more on and talk about in this upcoming episode of Planet Council. But we just want to talk about them here because they actually did both come out today, which is the first one is Star Wars Celebration, the biannual Star Wars specific convention that was going to be held in Anaheim this August, has now officially, after months and months of speculation and basically inevitability, has finally been canceled, due to COVID-19 restrictions. And, it's the same story with all these events. Unfortunately, it's something that, to make sure that they are in the clear, with the refunds, having all that infrastructure. I mean, this is going to be just like Comic-Con, this is going to be thousands of refunds.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Wait, when is Celebration usually? Isn't it like next month usually or something like
that? The month like kind of changes around, but this one was supposed to be August in Anaheim.
Okay, so now does this put in your mind the Fan Expo? Does this put a doubt in your mind for Fan Expo?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. And for those who don't know, me and TJ yearly we go up to Toronto to the Toronto Fan Expo. That's our biggest Comic-Con that we go to for now.
Yeah.
And now that we have the channel going and the podcast going, we will definitely if it happens, we will definitely be covering it extensively. Doing some cool videos there for you guys. Once again, if it happens, I would say yes, because this is the exact same weekend as that.
Oh, okay.
I remember we were talking.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I remember we were talking back in April, saying, August is a while away.
Yep.
They haven't even canceled San Diego yet.
Yeah.
Now San Diego's canceled, and then I was like, well, but Celebration's the same week. Celebration's gone. And for those who don't know, the Toronto Fan Expo, I believe it's the 3rd biggest Comic-Con in North America every year. It's San Diego, then what do I want to say? San Diego, then New York Comic-Con, then the Toronto Fan Expo, because there are every year there are hundreds of thousands of guests of patrons and walking around, and a Saturday on the floor of the Metro Toronto Convention Center is very tight.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very tight. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. I know there was, I think like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I got an email that was like a little survey thing that they, were asking, how would you like to see the show go to be as safe as possible?
Yeah.
And one of the options was stop selling tickets. They were just like,
makes sense.
Cap off the ticket amount.
Yeah.
I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Which unfortunately, I think that would probably mean the later you bought your tickets, the more likely you would be somebody getting a refund.
Yeah.
Which sucks, but the package that we get, luckily, I'm pretty sure we would be locked in to be able to go, which is nice. We normally do a hotel, but I don't know if the hotels will be safe enough to go to or whatever. It's a lot of big questions, but yeah, I mean, Star Wars Celebration being canceled definitely puts a big damper on our plans and the plans of, hundreds of thousands of people. It just kind of sucks. And because it's biannual, another thing in this too, they've elected not just to postpone it, they've elected to actually push it the full 2 years.
Yeah, I was curious. I was like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why it was 2022. I just assumed that they were like, well, I don't want to plan. We don't want to plan another one and then have it cancel again or something.
Well,
like that,
I think that's probably why. Yeah, I think they're really. Disney throughout this whole thing, they have been one of the companies. Say what you will about them, they have been one of the companies that have been really taking this seriously. Because think about it, with the parks, with their different conventions, with just their movies in general. They've really been focusing on their crowd policies, which is really, really good. And I think you're right. I think they really just want to give it the breathing time. Think about it. If they pushed it like, it'll take place in October. You know what I mean? It's like, well, then it could get pushed again.
Yeah.
Even if they said, August 2021, 1 year, it's like it could get pushed again at that point. You know what I mean? And then at that point, it's like, might as well just do August 2022. Honestly, maybe right now they want to take a break. They're kind of giving Star Wars a break in general, besides the television aspect of it. They're kind of giving Star Wars a break in general. I'm not really sure even how much news they would have put out at this celebration. So maybe they just thought it was best to just push it. And then the last bit of news here, finally, like I said, we had a lot to get through today. Is that the new game, which kind of burst on the scene this week. There was a leak on the Xbox site that listed this game, and I think that kind of pushed EA's hand to release the trailer, which is Star Wars Squadrons, which is going to be the first of the Disney era, the first Starfighter exclusive Star Wars title, which is really, really cool. I know you're not the biggest fan of like the Starfighter games more than like the actual like troop games.
Yeah.
I like them both. I don't really care for the Starfighter combat in Battlefront 2. But this promises to be very different from that, and very, very personalized and customizable, which I think is awesome. And this, I think, is going to be a little bit of a smaller campaign game. But it will have a single player and multiplayer campaign. I only say I think it's going to be smaller because the actual price of the game is $39.99 as opposed to the regular like $59.99.
Yeah.
But I mean, this game pretty much, it's got everything. Like, it's got everything you could want. It's got single player and multiplayer story, campaign story. It's got new original characters as well as returning heroes from there. In the trailer you see Wedge Antilles as well as Hera Syndulla. Our first glimpse at Hera post Return of the Jedi, which is awesome. And also it will be available on everything but Switch at launch, and it will be fully cross-platform enabled. So, your friends, if somebody gets it on PC, somebody gets it on Xbox, you can play together, kind of like the Fortnite model.
Yeah.
And then with that, another huge thing is here, all your ships are completely customizable. So you can do, like your paint job, different ship parts, everything like that. It's a very customizable game, which I just think sounds cool. It just, to me, sounds, I saw somebody describe it as, it just sounds like a very chill Star Wars game.
Yeah, if I do get it, I won't get it until like it's been out like a few weeks probably.
Yeah, like you won't be like dying to get it like right
now.
No. Yeah, I could see that. That's the thing. I think this is just going to be a smaller game. Clearly it's going to be smaller because really there was no buzz about it. Like, it just kind of came out of the gate. It surprised a lot of people. But I think it's really just going to be like, hey, do you want to jump in a ship and just hang out in your own Star Wars universe? With characters and locations that you love for like a couple hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I think it's cool to have kind of like, I think Battlefront can be a little intensive at times. So I think it's cool to have just kind of like a chill out, game that you can, spend a lot of time in the menus, customizing your ships and stuff. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on, having the new Star Wars campaign and having, new and returning characters and stuff like that in this game?
I think it's cool. I know obviously EA is doing it because they have like the agreement and everything. So as long as they don't, mess around with
no micro.
They said I know they said that,
yeah.
but companies say a lot of things and then they lie.
Yeah.
So, and you can always like hide them in a way where it's like, well, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm like kind of excited. I think it's cool. I think that's I wonder how long this has been in development because, they just put out Fallen Order wasn't that long ago. It was like, what was it, last November?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just a few
so I'm interested to see like how if it's good, if people really take to it. I personally am looking for like another good I like campaigns most of the time. Like Battlefront 2 campaign did not do it for me. I liked for the most part Fallen Order, like the story and everything. So I'm interested to see the campaign and the multiplayer, I guess. But I'm more kind of focused on the campaign.
Yeah. Well, either way, we'll definitely take a look at that and share our thoughts, once we do get the chance to, jump in the, no pun intended, hop in the X-Wing there and give the game a test drive. Just pack as many puns as I can into that. But that'll do it for the new news section of today's episode. So with that, the Planet Film Podcast will be right back in just a moment. All right, and welcome back to the Planet Film Podcast. Now it's time for Tell Me What to Watch. I don't know what to watch.
Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
So this week, we didn't know what to watch. So we watched After Hours, which is a 1985 Martin Scorsese directed film. A very smaller movie out of Scorsese's earlier work. It had a budget of $4.5 million. It had an opening weekend of only $45,000, which obviously that was in a very limited release. But it did end up making over $10 million. So it made $10,609,000 at the box office, which is not bad for a smaller movie like that. And it is a very small movie. It's pretty much the definition of a small movie. It's really one character just kind of going through it. So I was a little surprised actually when I was looking up the information on this that it had a $4.5 million budget. I guess that really just came down to Scorsese and maybe some of the locations, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like a lot for if you watch it.
Yeah. But it is Martin Scorsese in the 80s, so they probably gave him whatever he wanted. But so I guess let's just go ahead and jump in with first our non-spoiler review of it. As a movie as a whole, what did you think of it? Now, just for you guys to know, we are going to try to do something new here where when we watch movies that either one of us hasn't seen or just we don't really know about, we are not telling each other anything. So I have no idea what TJ thought of it. He has no idea what I thought of it. So it's going to be very interesting. So without further ado, go ahead with your non-spoiler review of the film.
Overall, I thought it was very well done. I mean, it's always intrigued me because when you think of Martin Scorsese, you think Goodfellas, you think Wolf of Wall Street, you think The Departed, anything other than you don't go, oh yeah, After Hours is that big hit from Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Overall, I don't know about you. The first shot of the movie, it really jarred me for some reason because I felt like the entire movie was all in close-ups in a way for some reason. I don't know what it was, but there were some scenes this is I'm not getting this isn't spoilers or anything, but there's this one scene where he gets into a taxi and the taxi just goes on the screen. It just goes anywhere on the street. Yes. I was what is going on?
That's something that I would consider that non-spoiler.
Okay,
that's something that I think I messaged you when I was watching it. Because I didn't message any thoughts or anything or any opinions. But one thing I did say was I said I would not recommend watching this any level of intoxicated or under the influence of anything. Because I think I use the word sensory. The sensory stuff in this movie is would make your brain explode. The taxi cab just going crazy on the screen. There are several scenes in this movie revolving around keys, like
Yeah,
someone's
that.
keys, and every time the keys are used,
Yeah,
the noise for the
Yeah.
keys, like they turned it up to like 11.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene where somebody drops a set of keys, and you would think that like the Louvre shattered or something. Like
Yeah.
it like rocks your world.
Yeah.
It's so loud. And I think that kind of builds on what the whole movie is kind of trying to say, which is very much like this guy's kind of like out of his element, out of his depth.
That's exactly what I was saying. Because in the beginning, this is just it's.
We
not,
can talk about the first scene. Yeah.
Okay, he's just you pan in on this guy. His name's I'm really bad with names. Paul Hackett.
Yeah, Paul
He's
Hackett,
just
yeah.
sitting at this desk. He's basically like training this guy. It looks like it's his first day at work.
Yeah, and dogs
he's
or
just like
whatever.
sitting there, and clearly he's like kind of like in his head, like, what am I doing like with my life right now? And then obviously after that scene, the whole movie like kicks off. I feel like right away. Like there's no like start and stop point. It's like you see who he is, and it's like boom, it's off.
Yeah, you're in on it. Yeah. One thing,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just one thing I did want to say is this movie very much gave me the vibe of a Ari Aster film, of like Hereditary and Midsommar especially.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to think of something tonally and like kind of stylistically, not so much in the cinematography because it's very grim and grimy. Like
that's what I was.
Movie.
You compare it to like Taxi Driver in that way.
Yeah, I would definitely compare it to like Taxi. If like Taxi Driver, but like the plot was more like Midsommar or like Hereditary, where it was just kind of like, what is happening right now? Like what? Like oh my god! At one point, I thought maybe Travis Bickle was going to show up.
I literally said the same thing. I go, if they don't show this Taxi Driver's face, I was like, you can make the assumption that it's Travis Bickle.
I really thought it was going to be. But yeah, so I would say, so I guess we'll go ahead and another thing we didn't do, which is me and TJ both religiously, every time we watch a movie, we log in on the Letterboxd app. We did not do that so that we would even save the star reveal for right now. So out of 5 on Letterboxd, what are you going to give this movie?
I gave it 4.5.
4.5. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I would give it a 3.5.
Okay. Wow.
I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was, like you said, I thought it was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that there were some parts of it that indulged a little too much. And I think there were some parts of it that don't quite hold up today.
Okay.
I think a lot of the movie holds up. I think it was a very interesting watch to watch it in 2020. But yeah, so I think that'll do it for the non-spoiler section. So this is going to be the end of the non-spoiler section here for the movie. So from here on out, we're going to go ahead and do full spoilers. So what is this movie? This movie is one of the craziest, most for 1985, and especially for Martin Scorsese. This movie is off the wall.
Yeah.
Like this movie is nuts. Like it's like a mental patient of a film. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's like Jack Nicholson from Cuckoo's Nest wrote a screenplay.
Yeah. It's funny because at the end of the movie, I'm just gonna skip to the end.
Yeah, no.
He just
spoilers.
he just gets dropped off back where he works. So it's like I left work, I went on this entire adventure the entire night, and I just ended up back where I was.
Exactly.
And it's almost like I feel like during the movie you think like, okay, maybe something's gonna happen where he's gonna not get fired or anything, but maybe he's just gonna something in his life is gonna happen where he's just gonna change or run away. Like with the girl he meets, Marcy, I would think like, oh, maybe he's gonna run away with Marcy or something.
Yeah.
But it's
and she dies.
I know.
He finds her dead like an hour later.
No, I know.
Can't believe it.
And it's just like you think. I feel like in the entire movie, I just feel like, oh, maybe something's gonna happen. Like something big is gonna like punch you in the face and be like, oh, well, there it is.
It's all gonna like make sense. Like,
Yeah,
so,
but it's all like just kind of like this eerie, like you said, it's a drag down. Like I'm assuming it's in New York City, correct? Did they ever like specify?
Yeah, they never say, but I think it's New York because even the cab doesn't say.
Yeah.
It just says. I think it just says taxi on the side.
Yeah,
like,
or
that's
like
it.
even in my head for a second, I was like, maybe like after he smokes, I was like, maybe it's like all in his head.
That's what I was waiting for that too. That it was all going to be, and I think it's one of those movies where maybe I think this movie is less ambiguous than it's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I feel like watching the movie as it's presented, I feel like watching the movie as it's presented, I feel like Scorsese was trying to go for like, was it all in his head? Did it really happen?
Yeah,
Did he just have like a crazy dream? But I feel like the way that it's shot and everything, it really just makes it feel like, no, all of this happened. It's just kind of like an American Psycho thing where like the people around him just kind of aren't noticing. You know what I mean? Like where he's just, another two movies apart from Midsommar that it reminds me of, another two is I would say it reminds me of American Psycho, where it's very much like, is this all happening in his head or is this real? Is this really happening right now? Because like everybody around him doesn't seem to think so. Even little things like the rain, like he goes out and it's pouring rain. Then when he goes to the subway clerk, he's like, oh man, it's really pouring out there. Like he was like, I didn't even hear it. And it's like, so was it really raining? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because then the next scene, his hair is like completely dry when he goes back to the apartment. It's like little stuff like that. And then another movie, the second movie, is, I don't know if you ever saw this, A Cure for Wellness with Dane DeHaan.
I remember like having like the standee and everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
this reminds me of that a lot, where that movie was, I saw that movie with my friend Eric and I think maybe Sia was there. But I definitely saw it with, it was our old friend Kevin. But it was me and Eric, who you know. We went and saw this at like a midnight screening at Regal, A Cure for Wellness, and it was crazy. That movie is terrifying in like the worst way. And this reminds me of that a lot. When you use the word eerie, that is like if I could describe A Cure for Wellness, it would just be like a very eerie movie. Like it's not even that good of a movie. It's not really a good movie, but it's very unsettling. And I feel like this movie was very eerie and unsettling to watch.
Yeah.
Just little things like when he gets to the apartment at first, and I believe her name is Kiki Bridges, the roommate of Marcy. Just that whole scene, it just makes you very, very uncomfortable. And you're kind of like, why is he like going along with this? Like there's parts where he's like very like forward with the women in the movie.
No, I know.
There's part where he's very like reserved and like doesn't want to put himself
it's because
out
there's
there.
like they're in the hallway at one point and he's like trying to make out with her.
Yeah.
And she like starts crying and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, and then she almost kind of advances in a way. And then he's like, no, but then he like, it's just like some of those shots where like, I thought this one shot was funny where he is running from the angry mob, which
with the Mr. Softy truck.
Yeah. And I also thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
And he's standing on the rails. He just looks and this woman her woman and her husband are arguing. The woman shoots her husband like 5 times. And then he goes, they'll probably blame me for this too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the music drops out and then he just goes, oh, I'll probably get blamed for that. and it's just like this weird moment of like just a total break in the movie. And it's like, is it really happening or is it like not? It's just like the weirdest thing. And I don't know.
Did they ever address the whole burn thing or no? Is that just
that's another thing.
Under the rug?
That's what I thought. I thought maybe at the end, because okay, so we should say Kiki Bridges, who is Marcy's roommate, is working on a paper mache sculpture. She makes paper mache sculpture.
Yes.
She also makes bagel paperweights.
Yes.
And like the bagel paperweight is like also a big thing. I don't know if that's supposed to be symbolic about something, but I did not pick up on that. I just thought it was a bagel paperweight.
Paperweight, yeah.
So then at the end of the movie, it all loops back around and he's being running through, the town, talking to all these people. Another person who I do think is really, really good in this is John Hurd, the bartender, the dad from Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really, really good in this. He's just kind of like a guy that, he's just kind of playing like a guy like at his wit's end, basically. And then you find out that because Paul meets up with him totally separately, and then you find out after Marcy has killed herself, you find out that then Marcy was John Hurd's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So then that's a whole nother dynamic. There's just so much in this movie that just like is crazy, and it's just like weird coincidences and like weird circumstances over and over again. So basically everywhere he goes, there's also it's like describing this movie, you'd think that you were making it up. Like there's also like a string of robberies that are happening that night that he is also being blamed for.
And the robbers are Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, yes, the robbers are, or in this movie as they're called, Neil and Pepe.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I was trying to do my my damnedest to look up to see if this is like set in the Cheech and Chong-averse or something, because it's just Cheech and Chong, like it's just randomly.
When I saw them in the opening credits, when I saw their names, I got so excited. I've only seen one of their movies, the Up in Smoke.
Yeah, the first one.
I laughed my ass off when I saw it when I was younger.
Yeah, and it's like it's just like, how did that come? Like, why are they in this? Like, and why are they together? Like, it's just the weirdest thing. Like, but basically, he gets chased by this mob, and then he also meets up with Catherine O'Hara, who also from Home Alone, coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
But she drives a Mr. Softy truck, and so she gets the Mr. Softy truck. And then this angry mob of these gay guys from John Hurd's apartment complex are thinking that he is the one stealing from them. And I think maybe they think he's doing it like because they're gay or something, because there's also like a weird thing going on with that. But basically they chase after him, and then they team up with Catherine O'Hara, who has the Mr. Softy truck. And basically he's getting chased, and then he realizes that this other woman that he met in the movie has been putting up signs saying that he's the burglar. And earlier in the movie, I did
murderer.
Oh yeah. What's it called? And then earlier in the movie, I noticed too, when he leaves and then comes back, she had on the notepad that he writes on, the first page has the picture of him that she drew for the wanted posters. So like she was already drawing up the wanted posters before like she even met him. Like, was she drawing them like at the restaurant? It was just the weirdest thing. And forgive us, but there's just some things that like we just can't even like get into if you haven't seen. I mean, we're in the spoiler discussion. Like, I would definitely recommend seeing it to make this whole conversation make sense, because there are just some things that like are so small.
Did you see the Marty cameo?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's also a Mohawk nightclub that they try to shave his head at, and in typical Scorsese fashion, his cameo is he's the light guy, like, and he's like shining the spotlight on him as he's trying to leave.
It's funny because it looks like he's like frantic about it. He's he's literally like going like this, like. But it's just very clearly like Scorsese with his little black beard back in the day. But there's there's just some like funny, there's just some I feel like there's some comedy sprinkled throughout. Like what's the Frosty Truck lady's name? Did you say
Gail?
Or
the actress?
Just the character's name.
Yeah, Gail.
When he's in Gail's apartment and he's trying to use her phone. And she wants to she's like, I need to ban it, because what did she do? She hit him with her car or something? I forget. His arm.
His arm was bleeding.
And she was
his arm was bleeding.
She was like, oh, I have to give you a Band-Aid. He's like, well, can I make this phone call first? She's like, no, I need to give you a Band-Aid first. And they're like arguing, and she says something about like what he does, or he says something like that she misconstrues, and she's like, "Oh, I drive an ice cream truck and everything." He goes, "Excuse me, I didn't ask you like what you did for a living." He's
Yeah,
like,
and
"Trying to use your phone."
Yeah, and then after he says that, then she says like, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not as boring as you would think." And he's
Yeah.
like, "I didn't ask you
I didn't
about that." And then she just goes, "Oh, well, it's pretty cool. You know, you're technically registered as like a valet service."
Yeah, she just
in
keeps
case-
talking about
yeah.
it.
And he's like, "I did not ask you any of these questions about the Mr. Softy truck."
Yeah.
It's just very, very like crazy.
And
It's
the whole like paperweight thing does come like back around because the waitress at the bar, when he's in her apartment, she's like, "I'll give you a gift," and she's like, "Here, take this bagel paperweight." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Apparently, these are way more popular than I was imagining."
And then he like freaked out because he was like, "What are you talking about? Why are you giving me this bagel paperweight?" And he was just like so freaked out about it. But I would say, to me at least, I guess we'll end on what do you think this movie is? I guess you would say. To me, I think it's a movie about. Hang on, I just want to look up real quick. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. Yeah, okay, so it is New York, because it takes place in Soho.
Gotcha.
That's what I was gonna say was, I think that this movie is about, if you think about the title, After Hours, and it goes to, there's also a waiter who like he screws over and orders a burger, and then he gives him the burger like 6 hours later. The waiter says at the very beginning of the movie, he says, like anything can happen after hours.
After
like,
hours, yeah.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I think it's as simple as that. I think this movie, whether it's real or in his head, I think this movie is about what happens to you, or what can happen to you. It's even kind of like, I guess I would relate it maybe even to like Spirited Away, like if that makes sense, like where it's like stuff starts to get weird at night. You know what I mean? Like, like especially in New York. Like, I think it's really a movie about New York and about what can happen after hours when like just the weird stuff comes out. You know what I mean? Like the weird people come out, and the stuff, like it's really, and like notice how I think the movie's trying to say that like all these posters were up of him, but like once the morning come, and then I think that's really what it's about, is the end of the movie when he falls out of the back of the truck.
He was paper mached, by the way.
Oh yes.
Sorry,
to escape I was gonna say, to escape the mob, he gets paper mached, which then obviously calls back to the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He falls out of Cheech and Chong's truck in front of his job, shakes off, and just walks into work. I think that's kind of the idea, is that crazy crap can happen overnight, like in New York. But like once the morning comes, it's like none of it happened. I think that's kind of what it's trying to say. At least in my opinion, and that's totally subjective. I think that's the point. But that's what I think it would be, is that, like, take the 2 security guards, for example, at his job. Like they close the gate, he's the last one to leave, and then the next morning he's the first one. First one to get there. And so like to them, they're just like, oh, he left. It doesn't matter to us what he did. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. Like he's just back again for the next day of work, and everything's fine. I think that's really what it's about. It's that over these course of these hours, anything can happen to you, and weird crap will happen to you. But as soon as the morning comes, it's like it never even happened.
Yeah.
That's just my interpretation. Could be completely wrong, but what do you think? What is your overall interpretation?
Just to try to give some, like, I guess, context to the ending and everything. So what Sean was talking about earlier, when he goes to the Mohawk like club at first, and he's trying to get in, and he finally gets in. And it's like a, I don't even know what to call it, like a gothic type biker bar thing. and it's like
Yeah,
all
it's
this
like a
loud
grunge
music.
bar.
Yes, it's like all this music and everything. So when he goes back later when he's running from the mob, he goes back later and he gets in. It's completely empty. There's like one bartender and then like a lone woman sitting at the table.
Yeah.
Because he got like an invitation, I believe.
Yes, a woman walked up to him and like gave him an invitation.
Yeah, so he gets in there and he starts talking to the woman, and he starts like saying like, you got to help me because these people are after me. So she happens to like lease like an apartment downstairs, like underneath the bar. So she takes him down there and she starts paper macheing him. Which when he started getting paper mache, I thought for sure he was going to end up just like the figure from the apartment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So the mob comes down there, looks through the apartment, they leave, and then she just keeps paper macheing him, which I'm like, okay, why would you stop paper macheing him? She was kind of creepy in that way.
Yeah, she like fights him on it. She's like,
she's
no, they might come back. I gotta keep doing it.
Paper macheing him. So eventually she stops and she goes to check if they're still there. Meanwhile, while she's gone, Cheech and Chong's character,
Neil and Pepe.
Yeah, so they sneak down, and because they're thieves, they're taking all this stuff.
Yeah, they're the actual thieves.
They're the actual thieves.
All the burglaries that he's being framed for, it was really Neil and Pepe, Cheech and Chong the whole time.
So they sneak down there, and they're like, what do we take? Like, all this stuff is antiques, and, oh my gosh. Tommy Chong's Pepe, and who? Neil, sorry. Okay, so Neil originally had taken that first paper mache sculpture.
Yeah, he had taken Kiki Bridges' paper mache sculpture
out of the apartment, which he ended up losing because Paul Hackett like yells at him and he drops it and they drive away. So they sneak down to the basement, this like basement apartment, and they see Paul Hackett paper mache sitting there, and Neil is like, oh my God. He's like, that's my art right there. Yeah. He's like, I got to take this one. So they lug it out of the apartment through like a sewer grate.
Yeah, through like a manhole cover.
And they put him in the back of the car. And the rest of the movie is them driving like the rest of the night. And eventually they hit like a bump or something. And Paul Hackett falls out in the paper mache and it breaks. And he ends up back at his place of employment.
Yeah, he ends up directly in front of the gates.
Yeah.
The exact same place that we met him in the beginning of the movie with the security guards closing the gates. He falls out and the security guard.
Yeah. And he goes in, just sits down, then it cuts to credits and it does this pan like throughout the office.
Yeah.
Sorry, just for context.
Yeah.
Overall, what I really think the movie is as simple as this guy wanted to live, because also in the movie you have no context of if he's ever been with. I mean, I'm assuming he's been with a woman, but he's not married, doesn't have a girlfriend, nothing. Yeah. So it's just this guy who works a mundane like 9-to-5 job in New York, has no excitement in his life, and he happens to meet this girl at a coffee shop, and he goes, maybe I will
give her a call.
Her a call.
Yeah.
Which at first, actually, like with the movie, I thought he was actually calling about the paperweight. I thought because that's whose number he gets. Yeah. He gets Kiki's and not.
Later in the movie, it seems very apparent that there's papers flying everywhere in his apartment that need to be put down.
Yeah. But I think it's literally. I honestly thought it was just like, even with like the things were like, because it did cross my mind where it's like, is this real? Like, I don't really know what's going on. But I really thought it was as simple as like, it's a guy who works a regular job and it's just one night is just craziness. And after that one night, he just ends up back where he was. Because I like looked up this video on YouTube, and it was like the title was like, what is the guy in the black coat walking into the end shot of the movie mean? So like, if as it's paying to credits, there's like a woman that walks into frame, and it like cuts there, and this guy in a black trench coat walks into frame, and it cuts there. And I didn't watch the whole video because I just thought it was kind of ridiculous. But the guy's trying to make an argument of like what this means or what something means, and then one of the comments is like, sometimes a cup is just a cup.
Yeah.
So like, a lot of like everybody always like there's always meanings in movies. There's always symbolism. There's always, and in my opinion, I think the movie is just what it gives you. It's just like, here's the story of this guy who works a 9-to-5 job. He has a crazy night out. It may seem unbelievable, but movies are, anything can happen. And at the end of the day, he just ends up back where he was, and that's it. I don't think there's some like deeper. I mean, there could be. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, I think it's totally. It's like you say, like everybody says, film is subjective.
Yeah.
You could take, like, obviously, clearly, he took the more literal interpretation of it. I thought it was more like open to interpretation.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I would say 3.5. What would be your final thoughts on the film? Will you watch it again? And more importantly, what we always answer in this segment, so we're out of the spoilers here. What is your overall final thoughts on the movie? And like we always try to say here, should you watch it?
I think it's just an overall like good. It's a good like dark, rainy, like kind of. I don't want to say. I guess it's grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't see a reason why I would say it's not.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's a very good film, of one of his underrated ones. Martin Scorsese, because again, like I said, you don't think After Hours when you think Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say it's a watch if you're like looking for like, if you've seen like all his biggest hits. If you're looking for more, I would say watch this. It's not like you have to see this. And I definitely struggle with like between 4 and 4.5. But yeah, overall, I think it's like it's a good film, and it's a watch if you want to deep dive into Scorsese, basically.
Yeah, I would say that too. I would say if you have seen movies like Midsommar, Hereditary, Lighthouse, if you're into that kind of movie,
mm-hmm.
if you're into that kind of thing, and you like being challenged by a film, you like to be like think about a film, and you don't mind, I would say, being weirded out by a film.
Yeah,
I would say watch it. Also, like what TJ said, if you're just a real big like Scorsese head, definitely watch it to complete the catalog. It's definitely a good watch. And it's a really interesting entry by Martin Scorsese. It really stands apart from his other work, while also full. It's kind of weird. Like it stands apart from his other work, but it's also very much in line with it as well. Like I would say it has the trappings of a Martin Scorsese movie. Like New York, interesting character, like all that stuff. But at the same time, the story is very much not like other things that he's directed. But I would say watch it if you are into that kind of thing. If you're looking for a cool, New York story, like this movie might be a little bit out there for you. And so I would say viewer discretion. I would say, in my opinion, you should watch it. But if you know about yourself that you're not into that kind of thing, I would maybe
skip it.
You know what I mean? Watch Roger Rabbit or something. But yeah, so overall, that was our review. That was our segment, Tell Me What to Watch. I don't know what to watch. So now to end things off, we're going to go ahead and get into shooting the shit, which today we're going to be talking about why is it that Warner Brothers just cannot seem to make a Superman movie? Whether it's a personal hindrance or something's going on deeper over there. There was a report that came out this week that said that they did not have faith that they would be able to make and put out a Superman movie that would get positive reception. And obviously, many fans disagreed with that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole bunch of memes and tweets and stuff. Like I saw somebody was like, on one hand, you have Marvel taking a D-lister like Iron Man and making him the biggest superhero in the world.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like you have Warner Brothers not knowing how to make a movie about the crown jewel of the DC Comics infrastructure. You know what I mean? Like it's like somebody said, every time they think they want to make a Superman movie, they're like, this is too hard. Let's just make another Batman movie. And that's basically like what they do.
Yeah, I don't get that either, because they can make. They've shown over the past few movies they can make a good superhero movie.
Exactly. It's like it's something about the character. It's like something about the character that the people at Warner Brothers, they think that like he's too hopeful.
Well,
what's going on? But it's
I
like,
get
exactly why you need hope right now.
I get the fact that like people look at Superman and sometimes are like, you have to have something like for Justice League, for example, they almost had to have him be dead and have him come back, because if you have him alive already, he's just going to beat the villain and that's it. Because he's just that's powerful, I guess.
And then when they bring him, spoilers for Justice League, and then when they bring him back to life, he does kill the villain in like seconds. It literally, it's like a panda can. He's like, I'm a big fan of truth, also a big fan of justice. And then he goes, and he just kills it. Like he just knocks out Steppenwolf like immediately. It's a fantastic Superman moment, but it's very like I'll be interested to see how that goes down in the Snyder cut. Maybe handled with a little more tact. Than just like a camera pan and he's back. Now he's dead. Like but yeah. Oh, that movie, man. That movie. But yeah, I mean I know exactly what you mean. It's like there's literally decades. There is 80 years plus of Superman storytelling. And you're telling me that you can't come up with one story? You just did it 7 years ago. Like, in my opinion, flawlessly. I think Man of Steel is fantastic.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, and it's like you can't come up with that again? Like, what are you talking about? You already have the perfect actor. You have him cast, and you're squandering him. You've been squandering him for 7 years. Since that first movie, it has been law of diminishing returns for the fans and for Henry Cavill and for Zack Snyder and for everybody. And it's like, now that they're getting good again, they're not putting any of that positive energy or positive spin onto Superman. You know what I mean? Like, just because Affleck left, like, you have possibly Flashpoint coming. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason that you can't have, like, Pattinson end up with this Justice League. You know what I mean? Just do that. Just because Affleck's out doesn't mean that you have to get rid of Cavill. Like, I never understand that.
I think it'd be cool. I don't know if this ever happens in the comics or whatever. Maybe it does. I think, what is the Superman like alter ego? Isn't that like a thing?
What do you mean?
Isn't it like there's like an evil Superman or something?
Oh, there's tons of evil Supermans. Yeah,
I would like. Isn't one named like Bizarro or something?
Oh yeah. Bizarro is that's a whole like Bizarro thing. Like Bizarro is like an Earth onto itself.
Like I think like
opposite.
That's the only one like I know of. But I like it's like a stupid little pitch, I guess. But I think it'd be cool if you like you really dig into that source material and get something like kind of like crazy wacky like that. Not wacky, but just kind of like off the wall. And you make that like a 1 movie, 2 movie storyline. And then maybe after, like, basically what Marvel does, you build some movies around the character, and then you put them like, obviously this is just not what they did. You put them into a single movie, so where you have Batman, Superman, etc. But yeah, I just I don't know why they seem to. I just don't, like we've had Joker, Birds of Prey. What else before that?
Like Shazam was really good.
Oh, Shazam. Yeah. Like those are 3 solid. I didn't see Birds of Prey, but I heard it was pretty good. I thought those were 3 solid movies. Yeah. So like I don't understand why you can't, hire, maybe not Snyder, but just hire somebody else that loves Superman.
Yeah.
because like Kevin Feige, he loves Marvel,
Not J.J. Abrams.
not J.J. Abrams,
Not J.J. Abrams.
and just like go here you go come up with something and come back to me in a year or and a half or something and pitch me.
Yeah, this would be okay. So this would be that's your pitch on it. This would be my pitch on it. Pretty much similar.
Yeah.
But I would go with Earth 3 in the comics is home to the like Justice League of or what do you want to call it? The Crime Syndicate of America, which is basically like the evil Justice League.
Okay.
And
Their
version of Superman is Ultraman.
Okay.
He is also Clark Kent. And I think it would be super interesting if you have him come in and kind of pose as Superman, have kind of like a dual Superman. Like you'd have to, because the character has been so absent from this whole universe, Warner Brothers, you'd have to like spend a good amount of a good like chunk of the first act, like building up that like Superman is like beloved and like all this stuff. Like you'd have to really like build it up to like make everybody know like Superman's been back. He's the best superhero around, like that type of thing, to really like sell the third act of the movie. But I would have it be that like Ultraman then comes in and is starting to like tarnish Superman's name again. You know what I mean? And they're like, is Superman going back to like his old ways? Like you could even say like maybe it was him that killed those people in Batman v Superman. You know what I mean? Like tie it into the older movies. But I think that would be great. Like basically Superman's story, like a case of mistaken identity, basically. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be mine. And then today for the final order, we are going to put out to you guys for Superman. What would you rather see? Would you rather see a finally 7, or by the time it gets made, almost 10 years later, a Man of Steel 2? Or would you rather see a fresh take on the character? Or would you say both? Would you want a fresh, kind of revamped story with Henry Cavill in the role? So let us know, go ahead and tweet at us. We are at Planet Film Pod on Twitter. Go ahead and email the podcast. It's planetfilmpod@gmail.com. Let us know, what your take is on that. Do you want to see an original take on the character with Cavill? Or do you want to see just a true blue, sequel to Man of Steel? Just picking up, after the last time we saw him, or like just picking up, whatever. Just kind of continue that whole storyline. So with that, I think that will do it for the Planet Film episode this week.
So remember, stay safe. What?
You want to close this out?
Yeah, I was just doing that.
All
right. Remember, stay safe and always remember to live your life 1/4 mile at a time.
We'll catch you in the next one.